Travelers going between Canada and the United States had the most headaches today. Smaller regional flights from south of the border were the first to be affected by the storm. A couple of university students have started a late-night condom delivery service for the Dow Kings area. They say their business starts after local shops close for the night. This year, each of the over 68,000 Canadian soldiers who died in the First World War will get their own moment of silence. Just under 100 people walk the route through downtown to Victoria Park. Sakharov says that's about the same as previous years. But with marches happening in over 70 cities around the world, from Halifax to Tokyo to the town of Gulu itself, the message is getting out there loud and clear. For the facts, I'm Nick Logan. Canada's busiest day for holiday flights got off to a stormy start.
Panic going to my son's for Christmas. So a little concerned whether we're going to get there today.
The wind and snow are steering clear of our region, but with 38 flights to and from Toronto, Christmas trips might be put on hold.
When they have a problem, it ripples through the entire system, as you would expect. So we're keeping our head up, and we hope everybody else is too.
Travelers going between Canada and the United States had the most headaches today. Smaller regional flights from south of the border were the first to be affected by the storm.
We were about an hour delayed getting out of Boston, and there's about six or eight of us that missed our connection. So we're trying to get the next possible flight, and we don't know when we're gonna get one out of here.
I'm very, very concerned because I got another flight from Boston to Charlotte, and then another flight from Charlotte to Miami. So I got two connections, an hour apart between each flight, so I'm very, very concerned.
The Halifax Airport Authority will do its best for stranded travelers, but it can't do anything about the already packed flights.
One of the complicating factors this time of the year is that so many flights are completely booked, and therefore the wiggle room inside the system is relatively small.
Some airlines use larger planes to make sure passengers get to their destination, but changes to flights and a backup of luggage could keep Christmas presents from making it to the tree.
This was an issue last year, and the indications that I have seen is that larger aircraft are being used to keep that issue to a minimum.
My son will be very disappointed if he doesn't get his lobster.
Reporting for Global News, Nick Logan, Halifax Stanfield International Airport. How has your stance on this affected your career as an architect?
I'm enjoying a healthy employment with a local San Francisco Bay Area architecture firm, a large firm, half of whom are signed on to our petition demanding a new investigation because they've taken the time and had the courage to look at the evidence thoroughly.
And what about the other half?
And the other half won't look at the evidence, hasn't taken the time to look at it because they can't, I presume, afford to consider it. It's too far out of their way of thinking. It's an emotional decision, being willing to look at this evidence. After all, you're putting everything you believe at stake relative to how things should be or are as we think they are in America.
This would be not the mainstream way of thinking as to what happened.
Well, the official story tells us that the planes hit the buildings. There was an ensuing fire fed by jet fuel, weakening of structural steel, and then we have the collapse of these buildings by gravitational collapse. And that is the mainstream way of thinking.
Okay.
Technically speaking. And
Now,
we challenge that, of course, with the evidence for explosive controlled demolition.
Now, why is this not a conspiracy theory?
It is a conspiracy theory. All the theories about what happened on 9/11 are conspiracy theories. It's a conspiracy theory in and of itself. It's one that turns out to bear no merit as you look at it, as David Ray Griffin has, for instance, in his New Pearl Harbor Revisited. So, yes, we have a different theory, a theory that's supported by science-based forensic evidence found in the collapses of these Twin Towers and Building 7, too.
One last question. Why speak to Canadians about your theory on this?
Well, it turns out that Canadians show up in greater numbers to these events than do Americans. And I presume that one reason for that is that you don't have the degree of control and conditioning by the media. In America, we have 90% of the mainstream media controlled by about 4 corporations. My guess is that that's not the case here in Canada. Also, we have something like 24 Canadians who died in the World Trade Center, and they seem to be more aware and more eager to find out.
Can we make a difference?
Yes. International pressure is the key to overturning the lethargy of awareness on 9/11. That's why I'm going to 10 different cities in Europe next month to bring massive international pressure on Congress in America.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gage.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Great.
The first person I ever came out to was my grade 6 teacher, because I was in grade 6 when it happened, and it was intense. It was really emotional. I told my mom told my dad. It's kind of up in the air and turbulent for a while. Mom went through the whole, oh, I know it's a phase thing, which most moms tend to go through, but now she's become one of my biggest advocates.
I came out in high school first as bi to kind of test the waters, and then I came out as a lesbian, but that didn't really feel right either. So I just kind of did research, I guess, and I just found out about trans people, and I was like blown away. I was like, that's totally me. I should be a guy. I've always dressed as a guy. I've always played with the boys, like pretty much. It's always been like that.
I knew that I was gay when I was 14, so I went to junior high, high school, knowing that, but not telling anybody, or telling my parents or my friends or anybody like that, because I didn't know anybody else who was gay. I didn't have any information. The youth project didn't exist.
Well, it was quite different back then. I was coming out just after high school, and the youth that we see out and about today was sort of like a dream back then to be in high school or junior high.
It was pretty tough, and it was a long time between the time that I knew I was a lesbian until the time that I felt safe enough and brave enough to come out. What pushed me to come out was knowing that I had to be true to myself. I couldn't continue to lie anymore.
I think there's a lot more information available, a lot more support available. There's a lot more visibility. So in television and movies and media, the law has changed.
Trans youth are coming out younger too. I'd say around 16-ish, whereas most trans people used to find themselves coming out at like 30 or 40.
I think that it's important through the history of the Youth Project that young people sort of have an idea of what was and the new challenges that they face today.
So I don't find it challenging anymore. Like maybe 5 years ago when I first came out, I would break down crying. I wouldn't be able to deal with being called a fag or a queer or something. Now I pass it off as if it's nothing more than a feather.
I think there's been a lot of change over 15 years.